Tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you? Where are you?
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, my name's Scott Thomas. I go by the moniker Simple Scott. I'm a designer by trade, and I do a lot of brand design and technology, and kind of live in the space in between technology design and brand design.
So you were here today to talk about an Obama campaign specifically. I loved a bit about the first aid symbols and the original 1972 or 3 airport signals. How did you get involved in the political campaign that you were involved in?
So it started with a simple email that landed in my inbox, and an individual named Michael Slaby essentially asked me to join campaign headquarters to lead design for new media, and that turned into leading design of the entire campaign. So
who was that who asked you to design?
his name is Michael Slaby. He was then the deputy director of new media, went on to be the CTO of the campaign, and was also highly involved in 2012.
So what's something that we would recognize that was from, apart from the change and the logo, what is something that you would have been...
Two biggest things. So obviously Change We Can Believe In was a huge part of the work that we did. Almost anything that you would see in front of Obama, behind Obama, anything online or offline was probably orchestrated by myself and my team. And then that included... the logo was designed by Sol Sender, so that had already been established when I started. It was about the only thing that was established when I started. And we ultimately needed to develop an entire brand and graphic system that the campaign could use, and various components and all of the various elements that go into running a campaign.
Okay. What's one of your favorite logos of all time?
Oh, that's a tough question. Top 5. I think the Nike logo is a quintessential logo mark where the mark itself can live on its own, where you don't... I think it's really important for a really good logo mark to not need the words to necessarily describe what it is. So obviously Apple is a brand that is well known for only needing that logo mark to communicate. And what was interesting, because I think a lot of people didn't think we would ever get to the point that we could achieve that within a political election, because you have such a short amount of time. But we were quickly able to drop the word Obama completely and just have the symbol communicate on its own.
I like how it's actually gone into progressing into what would happen when Obama finishes. There is there's a new thing that he's using that's just change we can believe in. It's got nothing, that's not his name, but it's just what we have to keep doing in politics to keep changing things.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because when I was working on the campaign, political messages are constantly shifting and changing. And I think one of the things that we were able to accomplish in 2008 was a real consistency, not only in color and typography, but also in messaging. So during the campaign, it started with Change We Can Believe In, got simplified to Change, and then in 2012, kind of moved on to Forward. And so having that serious consistency in message, I think establishes a sense of loyalty to individuals that are listening in.
So you think a logo is key to a campaign? And what makes a good campaign?
I don't think it's key. I think it was something that acted as a hallmark differentiator. It was something that was a true paradigm shift in this in 2008's election. And I think far more people in the political realm will start adopting to use logos. But I think what's most important probably is that politicians start paying a bit more attention to the people that are actually electing them and making their campaigns far more about the people rather than the individual.
How do you feel when you look back at the whole campaign, Obama, now?
It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, it was an honor just to have such a front row seat, kind of witnessing history, and it was something that greatly moved me and changed me forever. So it's almost impossible to describe.
I guess there must be a great honor to be personally involved, actually. So I was going to ask you about, I know you don't know much about the European elections, but this is something that happens next year that pretty much changes everyone or reshuffle some in the European institutions. What do you think could get more people voting? Because historically they've had a really low voter turnout.
Yeah.
That's the key thing.
I think it takes having a candidate that people are passionate about and that are really speaking for them and on their behalf. And I think the truth is that far too often politicians like to play it safe and play their game, and it doesn't necessarily motivate people like you and I to get out and be involved. Obama had that going for him. He had the ability to rally a base and get people really excited about creating change in our country, and to move the conversation back to the United States after 8 years of talking about Iraq or talking about Afghanistan. We were looking forward, I think, to shifting our focus back to our country a little bit more.
Are there any other politicians that you look at and think that they're interesting campaigns or that you take pointers from?
In the United States? In the U.S., I think Elizabeth Warren is somebody that I really admire in the political space.
What would you do for Hillary?
I don't. I mean, I'll be dead honest. I don't think that. I don't really believe in royalty, and I think that it doesn't make sense to have people from the same family elected as president of the United States. That level of career politician isn't something that excites me, but to each their own.
So you wouldn't want to work on a campaign for her necessarily?
Political elections, completely finished working on political elections.
But if you had to imagine maybe just one last time some kind of a slogan for Europe, say for example, what would you go with?
It's too hard to say, because I think what you have to understand is that it's not as easy as coming up with a slogan or designing a few elements. It ultimately has to be defined by the individual. And so if I don't know who the individual is and I don't know what they believe in, then it's impossible to try and communicate that visually to the people.
Of course, I understand. But when you're coming over to, say, Brussels, what do you think of when you're coming to the city?
I think like many European cities, I'm always overwhelmed by just the history that exists in all of these countries, the different cultures that exist with a 40-minute train ride. It's quite a beautiful thing, and I mean, just the sheer history and architecture and design. I'm always inspired and overwhelmed at people's generosity here. It's always rewarding to come. Yeah.
Is your background like any of your family from any part of Europe?
Ish. Yeah. I mean, I'm part German and part English.
Oh wow.
But I'll claim America all the way.
Okay, cool.
I'm a through and through American.
All right. But you don't follow what's happening in Germany or the UK, like Angela Merkel's Facebook page or something like me?
I try not to peer too much into politics. I think I'm a little bit too big of a nerd, so I'm spending a little bit more time on tech blogs and seeing what's the next latest and greatest innovation.
So what does happen to someone after a political campaign? Like, what are you working on now, for example? What kind of clients?
I only like working on things that make the world a better place. It's pretty fundamental to me. So if it's sheerly about profits, it probably isn't going to interest me. If it's sheerly about getting some metric, it's probably not going to inspire me. It's got to be something that I believe actually makes the world a better place. The Noun Project, which is a symbol library of icons.
What's it called, sorry?
The Noun Project?
Noun,
N-O-U-N. It's the collection of the world's visual language. And I think that the world could really use any tool that brings us a little bit closer together and makes us understand each other.
Thanks a lot, Scott.